Welcome back to another episode of Grow Through Ganja Smoke with me, Miss Pearl. So, I'm about to just ramble a little bit on this episode. I don't really have no notes. Just going to do some reflecting just a little bit and review this book right here. The title of this book is Growing Up Firstborn: The Pressure and Privilege of Being Number One by Dr. Kevin, I guess it's Leman, because it can't be Lemon. I think it's Leman. Dr. Leman. It took me 1 year to finish this book. Well, actually, I don't know. But it took me some months to finish it. I got it a year ago. This episode is called Read Between the Lines, and it comes from Aaliyah. So I went to a business conference a year ago, and while I was out there, I could feel it within me just searching for purpose. Like, this had nothing to do with money. This had nothing to do with anything outside of me. It was just something in me that was like, I need additional information. I need to believe higher, or I need to figure out what my direction is really. What's something that's really tugging on me to get done, be a part of, whatever. When you know that you're being called to do something other than what you're doing, a lot of us ignore the call. I couldn't ignore the call. So when I got back from the business conference, quite a few decisions were settled for me in regards to just strictly working on my purpose. But while I was there, I was out there in Cleveland, Ohio. I have family out in Cleveland, Ohio, so I just popped up on them. It was a surprise. And, I spent some time with them before I had to get on the plane to head back to the DMV. And, I walked around their home, and it like brought up so many memories of being a child, taking a long ass fucking trip from the DMV to Cleveland, and then you tired and you only there for a few days, and then you back on the road. So it brought back quite a few things, and then there were things that was like, whoa, I didn't know, and blah, blah, blah. But when I was walking around, I noticed that my aunt had a book there. And this book gave me a lot of perspective on being a firstborn. So I am a firstborn, and then I have two firstborns. My son is a firstborn, and then my daughter is a firstborn. I'll explain what I've gotten from this book, as the episode goes on. I need to hurry up because I'm trying to soak up this sun before it go down. I'm trying to work the rest of this baby mama fat up off me. I'm almost there. She got a little bit more to go, and then Big Pearl is officially gone. I mean, she gone, but, some of her physical things are still around. It's all right, though. Some of the chapters, as soon as I seen them, I was like, not right now. Because they did what I thought they were going to do. And it was just so many things in my childhood that was coming up. Like anger towards my parents. Like, I was raised by a middle child, and I don't know what the fuck my father is. I don't know. But reading this book makes me realize where a lot of gaps and holes come in when it comes to raising a firstborn. And it was so much relatable shit in the book about being a firstborn. And the crazy thing is, it wasn't written by a firstborn, but it was written by someone who really took some time to put this book together. And plus, they focus, Dr. Kevin Leman, I got him supposed to name, focuses primarily on birth order and like personalities and stuff like that. Say he was a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I don't know. He was one or the other. Because he also helped with marriage counseling. So yeah, he wore quite a few hats. And then he was a parent. I believe he married a firstborn, and he really admired his oldest sister, which, of course, was a firstborn. I want to say he did talk, well, he talked about all of the birth orders, but he broke down what firstborn was. So he was saying, like, every 5 years, you consider that child to be a firstborn. And then, if you have a firstborn son and then you turn around and have a daughter, your daughter is technically a firstborn. We all have multiple hats that we wear when it comes to birth order. So, some of the personalities spill over, into one another, kind of like zodiac signs. What I did notice was it made a lot of sense once he broke it down. He also talked a lot about like the leadership skills. It also made me view other siblings differently. So when he said that if you have one son and you have one daughter, they're both firstborns regardless of the age gap, it made a whole lot of sense. And then depending on the type of family that you have, you do wear multiple hats. It also gave me a lot of perspective on how to raise my son according to what a firstborn would need. A lot of stuff that my son says I can really relate to, like really. But we also live in different times, so some of the shit he be talking about, I'll be like, I don't give a fuck. Do what the fuck I said. It's also given me perspective on how to better connect with my daughter instead of treating her like the baby, because she's not the fucking baby. Okay, she's not the baby. She's just the younger sibling on this side of town. Because when she go across town, she ain't the youngest no more. So she ain't no baby. I treat her like a firstborn. I try not to put too much on her plate. I try to allow her to be a child. But what I hone in on with both of my kids is leadership skills. And I feel like I lacked quite a bit of that growing up. I don't have a mindset where I just assume that my kids know better. You have to assume that kids know what the fuck you taught them or what you told them, one or the other. It was a lot of times in my childhood, especially as a teenager, where I was dealing with quite a few voids. So I grew up and my father was over there, whoever there is, and it was my mom, who's a middle child, and then she was with her long-term boyfriend for like 10, 13 years, I don't really know. And the thing is, when you don't have certain conversations with your children, you can't expect them to know what to do out in the real world. And then you have to create a space for a child to be able to come to you with anything and feel like they can have a civilized conversation. I've learned that it's very important to explain to children why you're telling them no. Not because I said so. Because I said so kind of shuts it down. It kind of closes that space. Explaining to them why, even if you're a little frustrated, it gives them direction. And then it gives them more perspective. So when you're conversing with your kids, especially your firstborn, it is important to let them know why you're telling them no, because they can pass it down, and if anything happens, they already had this information up front. This book talked about how to forgive your parents, having higher standards for us than anybody else, being the parent junior by default. Like, I didn't sign up for this shit. You know? I didn't sign up for this. Perfectionism, our analytical skills. It talked about how we are in relationships. And of course, it had to mention, peer pressure and relationship with friends. It talked about the professions that we tend to end up choosing as careers. It hit on a lot of topics that are extremely relatable, make you see both the privilege of it and the pressures of it. I don't feel like a mentor or a coach of mine would say because I said so. They would say something else. Because I said so flat out is different. Like it really hits different. The book made me think about some of my cousins and their birth orders, and I'm like, well, god damn. It made me think of my twin flame and his siblings. So it made a lot of sense, and it helped to bring closure to quite a few things that resurfaced that I experienced as a child. And then it opens up space within me to build my relationships with my kids based on what we need, what I can help them with, just creating that space for them to just tell me whatever, even if they don't like what I said. Because my son, I mentioned it before, him talking about him running down the hallway to watch some niggas fight at school. I said that can turn to a real thick, sticky situation real quick. And then I tell my daughter the same thing. Get the fuck out of other people's way. They want to do that, let them do that. You get out the way. This book is for the firstborn who grew up without a father. This is the firstborn who feel like they could have had a better relationship with their mom. This is the firstborn who had a great relationship with their mom. This is for the firstborn who grew up with both parents. Like, every firstborn should read this book. A lot of firstborns just be walking around angry as shit because of everything they had to go through as a child, and they still be hanging on to those issues. It happens. Shit, it happened to me. But overall, this book, it makes me feel better about myself as a firstborn, because you do have it different coming up, and then you do have a different, you have a different thing about you out in the regular everyday world. Sometimes you can tell that somebody's a snotty nose ass, spoiled brat ass youngest child just by the way they talk. And then to date, to be a firstborn, straight up firstborn, and then you date a spoiled brat, snotty nose ass youngest from across town. How does that even work? I would think you would be like another parent. I wouldn't want to go through that. I'm definitely recommending it to quite a few brown women that I see that I know are firstborns. I'd be letting them know, like, this right here, you should read this right here. And then if you don't know where to find the book, I think the book is on Amazon. And then there's another website that I like to use to get books. It's called Second Sale. I think it's Second Sale. You can Google it and it should pop up. But they have like used books, under $1 gazillion, and then I think they give you like some free books. So I still have quite a few books to read. If you are a firstborn, you should be reading often. A lot of shit. This book is for the person who still feels unfairly treated by their family and their firstborn, the black sheep firstborns. This book is for the firstborn who's tired of being angry. They don't know why they're angry. This book right here can touch on certain things that you didn't even think about. It does help to reshape you as a person. It gives you a lot of perspective on why you have certain things going on in your life. And then it also gives you perspective to reshape the relationship that you have with your kids. It's worth it. So I really enjoyed this book. It took me months to finish this book. I finally finished it this morning and I meditated mostly in peace. You know, you try a new meditation, it takes some time to adjust. But I'm about to go on here and catch this sun. So maybe you got something from it. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you'll be back next week. Maybe you won't. I don't know. This has been Growth Through Ganja Smoke with me, Miss Pearl.